Lori was near the lightest end of the scale, which meant she was sent from heaven. Chad determined that Lori was an eternal being.
How many lives had she supposedly had?
21. And just 5 on this planet. Both of them had 5 on this planet.
Oh, wait a minute.
Just on this planet.
Where were the other ones?
Other Earths that were located in the universe.
And suddenly the chaotic, sometimes messy events of Lori's life shrank to a mere blip in an eternal saga of grand significance and purpose, all revealed by this sweet, attentive, important man.
He seemed to have a great respect for women. He seemed to hone in on that idea that women were really powerful. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was pleasing to Lori, to hear how he felt about women. And he seemed to be convinced that she was a very powerful woman.
And because each of them was so powerful, their connection would surely be the start of something big. Chad didn't seem intimidated by Lori's beauty. He praised her spiritual gifts. And for Lori, that attention, that higher purpose, drew her in. Who doesn't want something big to believe in? According to Chad, their relationship was written into Scripture, foretold. It was something no one had ever seen before.
Chad had this idea that him and Lori, once he met her, that they were head of this group called the 144,000. It is a scriptural term, but they deemed it, and they made it to be like they were in charge of this group, and they would find couples or people that would be able to fulfill this calling as the days and the tribulations came upon the world. And
couples, so people
couples or individuals, but I think eventually into the idea of being couples.
So what would they would be? What, the kind of the leaders, the king and queen, or something?
The leaders, yeah.
The king and queen? Well, you can guess what happened next.
Did you see evidence that she and Chad were falling in love?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that was pretty obvious.
Through discussion and through some observation, but mostly through discussion.
As Lori and Chad became closer, more connected spiritually, everyone in the group would get closer to salvation.
They said that different earthquakes are going to happen, and different invasions are going to happen to the country. And in that process, that they felt that Rexburg was going to be a place that this 144,000. And I heard Chad say that himself. He said, the people, 144,000, are going to move here in like a community of houses or whatever, something like that. And that's where they're like headquarters would be. He felt that that was the headquarters.
Rexburg, Idaho. Current population 29,000. About 30 miles northeast of Idaho Falls. Quiet here. Conservative. A bastion of traditional values. A gleaming LDS temple shoots its spire to heaven and looks out over the town below. It's a place whose motto says it all. America's family community. Chad lived close by with his wife, Tammy. So did their grown children. And eventually, according to Chad's vision, the 144,000.
I mean, I'm thinking in my mind what would be like. They live in a castle on the hill, and there's a...
Well, they didn't think that they would be to the level that other people would be at. So they figured that most people's would end up in tents and things of that nature, but they're like, we don't like to camp. So we're never going to be in the tents, Melanie. We're going to be in a different place. I don't know. Thought that was interesting, huh?
They were both on a higher level spiritually.
Right. They claim.
But where would Tammy sleep? And what about Charles? Lori and Chad hadn't reserved tents for their spouses. Charles' sister Kay and her husband Larry Woodcock could have seen that coming. Did see it coming, in fact, a full year before Lori met Chad. That's when Charles and Kay's mother passed away, Miss Tilly, a beloved matriarch. It was a sad day for all of them. The family gathered for the funeral in Louisiana. But Lori was nowhere to be found.
When you start changing a relationship where one of the spouses no longer wants to be there and interface and visit with other people, then there's an issue. I mean, that's 101. I could see there was a change going on.
Charles must have been hurting attending his mother's funeral without his partner by his side. But he didn't want to see the writing on the wall. He kept trying to make Lori happy. In every house they lived in, he ensured she always had a dancing room. No furniture, just an empty room. We're told Lori liked to dance to Christian music and 80s love songs. And as her religious fervor grew, she began spending more and more time there.
And it was a large room, and Lori had put mirrors along the whole, through the whole room. And he told me she has gotten into where she dances 2 or 3 hours every night, and she'll record herself dancing.
Charles told his sister Kay that Lori was emailing those videos to someone, a man named Chad Daybell.
I said, Charles, okay, if she hasn't had an affair, she is about to. I'm telling you now that she is in an affair, and she's with this man, and that's what all this is about.
And then Lori disappeared for almost 2 months.
Every day he texted her, sent her pictures of JJ. She never called, emailed, texted, nothing. Nothing. No, just silence for 58 days.
We know, of course, as Charles did not back then, that Lori took Tylee and flew straight to April's doorstep on Kauai. But Lori's unexpected visit was about more than getting space from Charles. She was there to gather April, to be part of this group of 144,000 ordained to go to heaven.
And she had just pages and pages of doctrine and lists of, categories that people belonged in. And in fact, my name was on one of the lists, but it was interesting because it was a printed out list, like it had been printed on a computer, but someone's name had been crossed out and mine had been handwritten in.
Lori was like a manic Santa Claus, armed with a list of good people to save. And naughty people past redemption.
And she was talking about different celebrities and their lightness and their darkness. And she was really anxious to tell me who the darkest spirit on the planet was. And she said it was Oprah Winfrey. I was just waiting for the conversation to end. I mean, it started out kind of feeling harmless, and then as it progressed, it was obvious to me something was wrong with her thinking.
The offer of eternal salvation wasn't appealing for April. Not that way, anyway. And who wants to be saved if Oprah can't join? April turned her friend down. Lori left abruptly and flew back to the house she shared with Charles. She had been gone for 2 months, and Charles had no idea where she was. In fact, he cried when Lori walked through the door. And all was forgiven. She was back. He put his heart on the line. It was all that mattered to Charles.
The writing was on the wall.
The writing was there. And he loved Lori as probably few men have ever loved a woman. And
he loved her to death.
Yeah, his death.
Literally.
Pretty soon, Charles would be suffering from much more than a broken heart.
911, where is your emergency?
July 11th, 2019. Lori Vallow's brother, Alex Cox, was on the phone to 911.
What's the emergency there?
I got in a fight with my brother-in-law and I shot him in self-defense.
And is he hurt or is he alive? Or?
Yeah, there's blood. He's not moving.
How long ago did this happen?
A couple of minutes.
Okay, let me get the medics on the phone.
Alex had just shot his brother-in-law, Charles Vallow. And listen to how calm he was, as if Alex was on the phone with the cable company.
Okay, what part of his body is injured?
In the chest.
I'm sorry, where?
In the chest.
Okay, is he awake and responsive or unconscious?
Unconscious.
Okay, is he breathing?
I can't tell.
Okay, are you willing to go over to him and check?
Sure.
Sure. Like he's checking to make sure the little light on the cable box was on.
It's not moving.
Okay, and are you wanting to start CPR?
No, I don't know how to do that.
I can walk you through it.
Okay.
And what I want you to do is you're going to put one hand in the center of his chest.
It wasn't long before the cops arrived.
Come out this way, man.
Police guided Alex out of the house.
You know, no weapons?
Sat him down on the curb outside.
I'm going to have you have a seat right here on the curb.
Alex was calm, cooperative, matter of fact. As inside the house, his brother-in-law died on the living room floor. So, what happened? Well, Alex had a story for the police. He told them Charles had come to pick up JJ that morning, take him to school, but flew into a rage at Lori. And then Tylee went and got a baseball bat to defend her mom, and Charles took it away from her and got all threatening. So Lori and Tylee got out of there. Very scary. Alex had never seen his brother-in-law like that before. You can hear Alex on the police body cam recording.
He's coming back at me, and he's still got the bat in his hand. Like, what are you doing?
Alex claimed Charles hit him in the back of the head. So when that happened, he said he went back to his bedroom where he, conveniently, had a .45 caliber handgun. Big one.
Okay, and you brought a gun with you?
Yes.
Do you always bring a gun?
I have a concealed carry always.
Okay.
Just to be safe.
Okay, why didn't you stay just in your bedroom, close the door? Is that something you didn't think about, or?
Didn't even occur to me.
No, didn't think about staying in his room or just leaving or calling the police. Just, took out the gun.
Okay, so walk me through it. So you go back in your room.
So I just went back to the living room. I'm like, what is your problem?
With the gun in your
Yes. And I said, I want you to put that bat down. He wouldn't do it. And he's like, and he came at me with the bat again after he'd already hit me in the head. So I shot him to stop him.
Okay, and then what happened?
That was it.
Okay.
Alex had a small cut on the back of his head, and he kept dabbing throughout the police interview. It really wasn't very much. If Charles had hit Alex with a baseball bat, it wasn't very hard. And that was weird because Charles was a powerful man, 6'2", 220 pounds, not an ounce of fat. And he'd once played semi-pro baseball. If he had wanted to take a swing at Alex, he could have done a lot of damage. When detectives Nathan Moffat and Cassandra Inclan arrived, they encountered a virtually empty living room, Charles's body on the floor.
The crime scene was, Lori and Tylee had just moved into the house a couple weeks prior. Mm-hmm. It was, sparsely furnished. The Lori apparently, according to friends and family I've found out since then, always liked to have a room to dance in. So she had the main living room where this homicide occurred had no furnishing in it whatsoever. So
odd to begin with.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a dance room, but I guess she did. Yeah. So there was no furniture in there. So we essentially had Charles deceased on the floor, the blood on the ground, a couple shell casings, and a bat on the ground. So it was, at least preliminarily or initially, there was not a whole lot to examine or to look at there.
At this point, Lori and Tylee got back to the house. They'd been dropping JJ off at school.
Was she aware of what had happened when she got there?
She was.
Who would have told her?
She actually was present when all of this happened, and she left prior to the police getting there.
And she admitted that straight out, did she?
She did.
That's next time on Mommy Doomsday.